Today at Manchester Theatres, it is my pleasure to be joined by the lovely Gareth Cassidy, an honorary Mancunian after graduating at MMU, who is coming to Lowry from the 25th of February in Intimidating the Dog's latest production, War of the Worlds. Now, Gareth has got a great CV ranging from The Snow Queen to Kinky Boots, The Wizard of Oz, Three Musketeers. He even played Elton John in TV's 10 Days That Rocked Elton John. So, Gareth, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about Intimidating the Dog's latest production.
A pleasure to be here. Thanks for checking the Elton John reference as well. I'm very proud
Yes,
of
so
my
you should
likeness
be.
to the great man.
So before we get into the show itself, I just want to let everybody know about this incredible company, Intimidating the Dog.
Mm.
25 years of groundbreaking storytelling, mixing live performance with technology. Tell us a little bit about them and what it's been like working with them.
Well, they do this thing which I've never really seen done anywhere before. They kind of combine art forms. So you'd call it like a multimedia performance, essentially. I first worked with them maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, blimey, on a production called Mitchell and Kenyon, where they used their tech skills to work on the projections that were used as part of that show. So I'd sort of been aware of them, and we sort of knew each other for a while. But it's only now that I've been able to work with them, and it's essentially making a film on stage. So you sort of see behind the curtain. We're there, four actors, three of whom are on cameras, not me, thank goodness. And they basically just shot for shot create this film on stage using backdrops and small model boxes of different scenery, these kind of things. And then you see the film projected on this massive screen above the stage. So you get this sort of this split vision experience of seeing this stage performance, but the result of which is kind of there for all to see at the end. I'll be honest, from an acting perspective, it's a massive technical exercise. It's one of those rehearsal processes where you start it, and on day one you go, how am I ever going to remember any of this? I think there's hundreds of shots in this piece, and you literally just got to know where the next shot is, who you're looking at, who's got the camera, who's picking you up, what backdrop you're against, and also like what your character's meant to be doing. And it took a lot of time to sort of build those layers, I guess. But we opened in Doncaster a couple of weeks ago, and we sort of found our feet with it a bit there, and then been in Hertford last week, the Dukes next week, and then, as you say, the Lowry from the 25th. So yeah, we're excited to sort of get a bit of momentum with it, I think.
Yeah, because I was going to say it's one thing to train as an actor. So if that was me and I auditioned and I got this job, and I'd be like, oh, yes, okay, right, finally. And then they'd say, yeah, but there's going to be all this technology involved and you're kind of going to be in control of a lot of it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to blow the stage up before the aliens do.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd just be like insane. So the story itself, the War of the Worlds, some people will know it, some people won't. So tell us what we need to know.
Well, I think even if you know the story, what Intimidating the Dog do, they sort of take these known titles and these sort of classic stories. They've done like Frankenstein, Dracula, all different kinds of Macbeth as well.
Yeah.
And they essentially take that as a jumping off point, and then from that extrapolate their own story and put that on top of it. So I mean, I've read the book, and it's a great book, but you don't have to have read the novel. It's a nice bit of basis for coming to see the show itself. But I think there's still plenty to be got from the story itself, because people will also know, if they haven't read the original H.G. Wells, they might know the Tom Cruise film, which was like 2012 or something, I think.
No, it was yesterday. It was not.
Of course it was. Like everything now. or indeed, there's the Jeff Wayne musical version, isn't there? Which people should not expect from the show. There's not much Jeff Wayne left in the piece, but what it does do is create an amazing kind of, almost like an immersive experience, really, the atmosphere, because as well as the visuals, there's sort of the score that they've got in there that the MD James Hamilton has written, and it's what they do is create like a sort of a cinematic experience, but sort of all enveloping, really. Yeah,
brilliant. Honestly, I can't wait for this one. And famously, when this first sort of came out and it was broadcast on radio, I've heard the story that people thought it was real, they thought it was happening. And when I was told that story when I was younger, I was kind of like, what? How do people? But now I kind of get it. Like we're in the birth of AI, and covered on social media, you've got news stories and videos and images, and you kind of don't know what's real and what is
Mm.
AI. And so it just seems like this is such a good time to reinvent this show and show it, because people really will connect with it in so many different ways, won't they?
Oh yeah, the amount of times you get pulled in by something on Instagram or somewhere, and you're watching them going, "My God, I didn't know that thing could ever exist," and you go, "Oh no, it's AI again." Great,
Yeah.
great. But I mean, it'd be the classic tale of the boy that cried wolf. That eventually, when aliens do invade, none of us will believe it. We'll go, "Oh, more AI slop." God,
Yeah.
but before they're knocking at our door, before we believe it, you know. Um, but yeah, I think they are kind of like tapping into something in like the public consciousness, and again, the way they kind of their slant on the story is a lot to do with sort of invasion, but also immigration and the sort of the xenophobia of all that. Do you know what I mean? In terms of so-called like invading populations and stuff. So there's still a lot to be said by the piece itself. It's not just on the surface. There's kind of Martians come and take over the planet. There's greater layers to be mined basically from it all. Yeah.
And I think after the last 5 years or so that we've had, with pandemics and Brexits and, wars breaking out everywhere and world leaders going off the scale, it
Mm.
kind of feels like we're in our own version of War of the Worlds, and that order is breaking down and that chaos is ensuing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this is it. It's sort of quite prophetic on H.G. Wells' part, because the Martians are just a metaphor, man.
Yeah.
Especially in the novel itself, it's all like set in like the outer London sort of suburbs, like Woking and places like this. And it just seems like this bit of an oxymoron. You kind of like you can't imagine why would aliens come to Woking, but what it does is sort of brings it to your doorstep, really, in that same way, in a way that, as you say, global events are kind of chiming in with the
Mm.
sort of the breakdown of sort of the world order as we know it itself, and something you come to rely on and just presume will always be there. Suddenly, when that breaks down, you go, well, what are we left with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you mentioned there's four of you on stage. So tell us a little bit about your character and who you play.
My character is William Travers. He's sort of the protagonist, really. He's the main person. He essentially wakes up in hospital, and the invasion has already happened. He has kind of slept through it in a similar vein to like 28 Days Later,
Yeah.
when Cillian Murphy wakes up in the hospital and the zombie apocalypse happened last week, and he slept through it. So it's a lot of my character sort of discovering what's happened and trying to get home and find his wife, and all these kind of things happen around it. But yeah, no spoilers in any of that. And yeah, he's just made to confront certain aspects of his personality and the opinions he's formed about things by the other three actors, which play all the other parts, but also are a bit of a sort of a Greek chorus, or you could say aspects of his conscience or demons, or that's the kind of the concept they've gone for, really, which is
Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah.
Brilliant. And with this, like we've kind of touched on some of the themes that are kind of going on there. So looking at how would you react if chaos ensued and order broke down? How far would you go to survive and protect those that you loved?
Mm.
Have you, as a cast, had to, because there's so much technically going on, have you also had to kind of really delve into those conversations as well to kind of get layers, or like where does the balance kind of land really?
Yeah, I'd say we got to that point at the end of rehearsals. The rehearsal process is so technical that
Hmm.
it's more just about hitting your mark, getting there, looking in the right direction, try and say the right words. But yeah, I think beyond that, you are made to kind of ask yourself certain questions. So you put yourself in certain situations. It's like watching 28 Days Later. You go,
Hmm.
what would I do?
Yeah.
The chances are probably get killed within the first 5 minutes. I'd sit in a corner and rock basically until the zombies came. Yeah, well, I guess it makes you ask the questions: where would your priorities be?
Hmm.
And who would you prioritize, yourself or others
Yeah.
or loved ones, those kind of things. And my character is first port of call is to get home, find his wife. That's kind of his all is about, and then sort of to try and escape.
So have there been any parts of the technology that have kind of flummoxed you more than others, that have been harder to work with? Or, I mean, you mentioned a lot of it is about hitting cues and stuff. Does that kind of impact? I know it won't by this stage because you're up and you're running it, but when you're rehearsing it, kind of impact your kind of process as well, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, I think you've got to have both things sort of working in parallel in terms of the technical aspect, and which is the first part that they work on. Is kind of working out the shot, how's the shot going to work, where's the eye line for this particular bit, and then what makes sort of narrative sense in terms of like journey time into the next shot. So you have to sprint round to get into the next bit of it. But I'd say, yeah, then you try and go, well, I need to try and carry the psychology through to the next shot already. So in the same way, if you're filming anything sort of TV film wise, you have to jump into the sort of that sort of particular point in the narrative you happen to be working on, which might be out of chronological sync, and it might be you might have been sat in your trailer for 4 hours, so you've got to just sort of learn to switch on. It hones that skill, which at first is like there's too much happening in your brain, but then it becomes sort of second nature, and the muscle memory kicks in, so you think less about hitting a mark and more just about carrying the thought through onto the next shot, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of plates to kind of juggle, I suppose, all at the same time. It sounds incredible. And finally, then, the aliens. So I need to know. I know you're not going to tell me too much about them, but I need to know just how scary they are, because after the film version, I'll be honest with them, like red things, and even in the musical version. I'm not going to lie, I've not been able to eat strawberry laces because so how scary are they going to be? Are they immersive or like
there's projections, so you're always sort of in the safety of a cinema screen. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But what they managed to do again, sort of the tech team, and also sort of Simon and Davy and all these guys who work on aspects of things, they through their own kind of like tech wizardry create these amazing kind of like moving images and things, and it's quite intimidating when it's on like this, I don't know, this 12-foot screen in front of you, and I'm sort of looking up at it, and it's as I say, a little intimidating.
You can catch Gareth in The War of the Worlds by Intimidating the Dog at Lowry from the 25th of February. It sounds like it's going to be like no other show, and I've seen quite a few of Intimidating the Dog's productions, and they are phenomenal. They just take it to the next level. So come along and see what it is all about. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.